Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the Ingrove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I wanted to talk about Record Store Day. I noticed in the comments section and elsewhere and people coming in, I think there's a lot of misconception on how Record Store Day actually works. You guys got to see the actual finished process of Record Store Day because we live stream it all day. So you can see what happens on the day of Record Store Day as a consumer, but I don't think a lot of people are actually aware of how Record Store Day works from a store perspective. I've been doing Record Store Day 8 years, and I remember my very first Record Store Day. I ordered like gangbusters because I thought, well, if you just buy Record Store Day items, they'll come out of the woodwork. Folks will be coming, they'll be clamoring to have this. You hear about all this, pandemonium for Record Store Day, and I'm just going to sell everything. And I was a very tiny, small store at the time. I'm talking really small. And I ordered $19,000 worth of Record Store Day stuff. This was what, 2015? I think it was 2015. I sold $2,800 worth of Record Store Day stuff. I got absolutely hammered. Now I sold a little bit the following weekend. The better stuff sells, the stuff that is really desirable and hot. But the memory of that Record Store Day goes strong because inside the store, you will still find a lot of the items from that Record Store Day on my shelves unsold. And I've marked a lot of things down to like $5. $35 records, $5, and I can't sell them. That Record Store Day had all kinds of bizarre stuff. Sharknado 4, the soundtrack. There was a Rocky Erickson. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff that didn't sell. Over the years, I've gotten progressively better at ordering and knowing my customer base. So when you see now in 2022 what I get, you'll see in my videos where I go over my Record Store Day items, you'll see a big difference between the old days and what I have now because I'm really fine-tuned with my customer base and I know what sells and I know what to order, more or less. I make mistakes every now and then. I've got, there's a couple titles, the Dire Straits from last year that I got like 40 of, I kind of screwed up on that. It's a killer EP. Didn't sell well. I'm sitting on a brick of them. So, Record Store Day from a record store perspective is an extremely risky proposition if you do not do it correctly. A lot of people are down on Record Store Day. I personally like Record Store Day. Even when I was making foolish choices and I botched it up, Record Store Day in the end ended up being a big boon for the store because it gets a lot of people in your store that normally wouldn't because they're looking for other things. So you'll get a group of people within a city that have no clue you exist. They go on the Record Store Day website, they do a printout of all the stores that carry Record Store Day goods, and then in their attempt to find products, they go from store to store to store to store to store. And if you've got a good store, that creates a lasting memory for the customer. So for me, it was a boon and it got my name out there and it got me recognition as far as my store goes. So let's talk about the Record Store Day ordering process. That's kind of changed throughout the years, and actually the list and what is on it has changed significantly throughout the years. I remember before I had the store, Record Store Day consisted of mostly 7-inch singles from indie bands or 7-inch singles in general. That never really appealed too much for me, so I never actually had the benefit, the fun, the benefit of sitting out all night looking for records, waiting for records in Record Store Day. Never did it because by the time the releases started getting to my liking, I had a store. But the way it used to work is the list would get released. I'm talking, I got Record Store Day lists before Christmas. They weren't released to the consumer for a month or two. And then, Record Store Day is typically, third week of April? They changed that. They got tired of leaks, the Record Store Day folks. So now I get Record Store Day information simultaneously with you guys. When it drops to the Record Store Day website, that's when I find out about what's available. I typically get about 10 days to make purchasing choices. Like I say, it's very risky because things can go two different ways. So let's go over this last Record Store Day. Got a lot of people saying, oh, you got 500 art peppers. Save some for the rest of us. See, the funny thing about that is, as a store, you order whatever you want, right? And things get allocated. Now, you would think that more popular stores, bigger stores, they get more quantity. I don't know if that is necessarily true. I kind of feel like they look at it as a whole. I think if you try ordering 1,000 Taylor Swift 45s, which is going to be hot, and you order nothing of anything else, that probably doesn't go over well. But if you order a lot of everything, you typically get a lot of everything. But that could be a good thing, and that could be a bad thing. So like I mentioned earlier, I know my customer base. I feel very confident in, now I ordered, in all honesty, I ordered thousands of that art pepper title, and my order was heavily cut. I'm sure, you know, it was ordered, it was heavily cut. Titles that I thought would be successful, I ordered heavy. But this is the risk. Sometimes you order a bunch of something and you think your order is going to get allocated. So say you order something, you order 50 of something, thinking, oh, this is a good title, everyone's going to want this. I'm going to get maybe just, you know, maybe they allocate, everybody gets 10% of what I want. You know, what, you know, so I order 50, only wanting 5, then you get allocated the full amount and you get 50, and then you're kind of SOL. So you really have to, as a store, be pretty confident in what you're ordering and take what you order. That's kind of been my experience. So I typically, if I feel something is going to be good, here's a for instance, like Rolling Stone's record store day, the Let It Bleed that they made 900 of, that was a $100 damn record, and I did an unboxing video on it. They only made 900. Everybody knew this was going to be like a home run, right? As a joke, I ordered like 900 of them. They sent me 900 of them. Sure. You want to send me the entire, you know, the entire print run of Let It Bleed special edition? No problem. I'll pay for it. I'll take it. But wasn't going to happen. I got one. No store got more than one because it was an extremely in-demand title that, you know, what they probably did, now keep this in mind too, I think there's close to 2,000 indie record stores, and there was 900 of that title. I would imagine they probably, as a distributor, now I don't know, but my guess would be that they probably sent one of each to maybe, you know, the different distributors, you know, and there's, what is there, 3 official Record Store Day distributors now. Record Store Day products do not come from labels. There's 3 distributors that handle everything in-house. And my guess is they got the items and they probably allocated them out to the stores, one per, who knows, probably they're better customers, I'd imagine. Stores that regularly support record stores. That would make sense to me, that if you were a guy who only ordered 3 or 4 titles and the titles everybody knew were going to be good, I would imagine they probably didn't get stuff, but maybe they did. But I got one, you know, but that's what I expected to. This year has kind of been funny because I got a ton of those art peppers, like hundreds of them, 500 maybe. I don't remember what the exact number was, but there was a lot of slack online and in the comments. You ordered them all. You should save some for the other people. Well, that's not how it works. And I'll get to how that's not how it works. But also, after everybody gets done ordering everything that they want, some of the distributors, actually all the distributors, send out a list essentially saying, okay, this is what we have that's not committed. This is the Record Store Day product that is now available. It has not been committed. If you want any of this merchandise, this is the title we have and this is how many we have. That art pepper was still on one of my distributors' list, meaning he did not even sell out of the art pepper. Why did I get so many art peppers? For a couple reasons. A, I'm a store that specializes in audiophile releases. This is a title that I think got 500 copies of. Okay, there was 8,000 copies of it. If somebody gave me the option and said, hey, Mike, would you like to buy 8,000 copies of this record? I would, you know, bought them all. I wouldn't mind being the only person in the world that had Art Pepper Meets the Rhythm section, mono, all analog, cut by Bernie Grumman. I took all 8,000. Okay, so that's my customer base. I know I have no problem selling that title. Worst case scenario, unlike the Sharknado, They don't ever sell, no problem. When I go, bury me in the hole, throw the art pepper on top. I'll take them with me. It's a great record. I had a lot of confidence in that record. I felt strong about ordering that. A lot of stores don't, because just like there's a lot of squirrely stuff that I personally don't know about and didn't order really, really deep. I order everything. I typically order 5 or more of every single title, whether I know what it is or not. That's typically my minimum, because I have no idea what some stuff is. I mean, I ask around. I got 7 people that work at the store. I ask customers. I get a feel, because, you know, like I said, we got a couple weeks before we actually have to have our order in. So I get a feel. I see what's going to be good. I look on eBay. I see what the forums are talking about, what people want, what they're looking for, and I place orders accordingly. But there's titles that I just know and I have confidence in. And I have experience as a record store owner, like the Ramones box set. Yeah, it's not their greatest work. It's not Rocket to Russia. It's not the self-titled. But these albums are in demand and very, very difficult to find. And when you find them, they're 50 to 70, 80 bucks for that era of albums, because they're rare. I knew there would be demand for it, especially considering the way that the box broke out. You know, they were in the $20 range for the albums. 20 some odd dollars plus the bonus disc, you know, so I knew that would be desirable, so I ordered accordingly. The Doors, it's one of my favorite bands. You'll notice I ordered a ton of them. We specialize in jazz, so I order a ton of jazz. The Art Pepper, the Pepper Adams, I think it was numbered to 1,500. I think I got like 40 of them. Now, why would I get one of the Pepper Adams one of the Rolling Stones Let It Bleed and 40 of the Pepper Adams? Well, that's because other stores didn't order it. So this is the way it essentially works as a store. You have the ability to order whatever you want. If you've got a store that orders a ton of a particular title, in a lot of cases, they will get it. Certain things they won't. Taylor Swift, they won't. Certain super rare things they won't. But if something is numbered to like 20,000, like the Prince that's coming out, good chance your store is going to get what they order within reason. I mean, but the thing is, and it's funny, so the comments, most of the comments were, my store got none of these, and it's because you've got all of them. And the only reason, look, I don't take this, I don't really care what people say, but I figured, you know what, more than anything, this is kind of like an educational experience and some advice. I want to give you guys some practical advice on how to approach your record store in your city. If a guy gets 2 of something, and 80% of the cases, if a store gets 2 of a title, that's because they ordered 2. Okay? If they get none of a title, almost always that's because they ordered none. Every now and then there was a fluke. Like, I don't know what happened this year, but that Albert Ayler, I ordered it and it didn't come. I did have some boxes lost. I'm in transit. I'm thinking that they possibly were in there. I still haven't even had time to dig through the paperwork and get all my billing in order, because, you know, you see what goes on with record store day. My first priority with record store day is get it prepped and ready to go for sale on record store day, and then get it out the door and ship to everybody. So that's what I'm focusing on. But you typically will get one of everything. I don't know if any store typically doesn't get one of everything, unless it's something like that Stones, which is like uber rare, the Toolbox set from years back, you know, stuff like that. Of course, back then there probably wasn't even 1,000 independent record stores, so maybe everybody did get one. But for the most part, everybody gets something. So if your store didn't get something, it's because your store probably didn't order it. And I could see why. I'm not talking down on any stores. It is extremely risky to do this. I have a good customer base. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. I have a good customer base in the store. You guys saw the live stream. I had probably 1,000 people walk through the store that day. So I have a huge amount of traffic locally, and I have a huge amount of traffic online. So I felt comfortable ordering 6 figures worth of record store day stuff. And that's what it came to. I mean, if you look at the video, I'm not going to tell you exactly how much I ordered, but it was well over 6 figures worth of merchandise. That's extremely risky. You do something wrong while ordering 6 figures worth of merchandise, and you're going to go out of business. So I don't bemoan any single store for that, but as the consumer, you should know, when you're looking for merchandise in specific, you got to kind of call around, and you got to ask ahead of time. I encourage people to call me when it gets closer to the event and say, you know, hey, how many art peppers do you have? Now, if I didn't do the YouTube, I would tell people in the old days, oh, I got 10 of these, 8 of these, 15 of these. Now, 2 weeks before the event, most folks don't know, because you don't know until it typically ships. Like, this is what you got, it's on the way. That's how you know. And of course, you don't really know until it's in your building, because like this past record store day. Stuff goes missing, stuff gets lost. So you really don't know until the smoke clears, and stuff's shipped and what are you going to get. But as a consumer, you really need to be calling around and kind of gauging what do they do. Now, if you got a store that specializes in jazz, chances are they're not going to have a Doors LA Woman box set or a Ramones. Or if it's a punk store, maybe they'll have Ramones, but they're probably not going to have the Art Pepper. You get some stores that carry everything, like myself. So you really got to gauge what your store is going to have. You can pretty much guarantee if it's a jazz release, I am going to be very, very deep in it because that's kind of, I cater to audiophiles in a jazz crowd. If you want like a random squirrely indie release, I'm not going to carry 100 of some band I've never heard of, but there is stores, even locally, that specialize in indie music. We have a store here in town that specializes in indie music. They don't really do much of anything else, maybe a small fraction, but I mean, that's their thing. They're going to order 100 of a band that, that's not, so you can kind of gauge the marketplace by making telephone calls, and that is the best thing to do. But record stores have a lot on the line, and I mean, that's why if you are a fan of your local record store and they participate in Record Store Day, you should support them because it's very easy for record stores to just say, you know what, I'm going to sit this out, and a lot of big stores do it, a lot of well-known stores do it, because it is a risky endeavor. It's very easy to sit it out or participate in the slightest fashion. Do you know what I mean? So you got to kind of protect your store by supporting them. Another thing is the controversial flipper. And I know it just chaps everybody's ass when they hear flippers. So I had people lining up at the store. Now the first three people, maybe the first two, maybe the first three, I know they got there at like 10. So the night before it was 10:22. I looked on the cameras, from my phone. 10:22, 10:24, the very first three people showed up. And it was funny, it was 2 carloads of people like simultaneously. They showed up, they set up their cooler, their chairs. They got to go. The first 2 I know for sure aren't flippers. The third guy, he probably sells some stuff. He probably keeps a chunk of stuff. But the first 2 people I know really well, they're regular customers. It's like a thing for them. They get in there early and they set up. But there's some people that do set up early to flip records. It's not as common as you would think it is. What is common, and you'll see by my live stream, go back and watch my live stream, you'll see a guy who's pretty much ordering, he's buying all jazz, but then he grabs the Taylor Swift 7-inch. A lot of guys will do that to offset this addiction that is vinyl. They know the record's $200 on the secondary market. It's hard to pass up a $200 bill sitting on the counter for $15. I mean, that's especially considering they can maybe trade it for something they want. They can sell it for something they want. It kind of helps fuel the passion of buying crazy amounts of records. That's typically what it is. But the thing that I tell everybody the absolute most, let's imagine this. Everybody's down on the flippers, but let's imagine there's no such thing as flipping, okay? You got a very hot title. Taylor Swift, for instance. Not my thing, but extremely desirable. Say you got in a car accident, you're in the hospital. You had to go to the hospital because your mom was in the hospital. Say you had to work, there was no way out of it. This is your favorite band in the whole entire world, Taylor Swift. You're just the Swiftie through and through, but you could not make Record Store Day. Got a flat tire on the way. Okay? If that happened, you weren't able to get to a record store, and only the Uber fans could buy these titles, right? You would never, ever have a chance to buy that record because the Uber fans, they're putting it in their collection. It's going to turn to stone. That's it. It's there. What are you going to do? I'm not as hard on flippers because sometimes I miss things, whether it's an audiophile release or something. And if I'm a fan enough, I'll pay the money. Yeah, it sucks. I missed out on the Santana Braxis One Step. Now, luckily, I was able to get into that around the $500 range. But man, that would really have sucked if only people that bought that wanted it and nobody else bought it, because I would be able to hear about how great it was, but I'd never get to own one. So, flippers, in a way, people that buy things they don't want, in a way, they do provide service because they do allow people to get stuff under circumstances where they never would be able to get it. I mean, you really got to think about that. If you are a fan enough, you'll pay for it. If you're a fan enough and you don't want to pay for it, you'll get in line. Okay, and I think about this too. It's not easy. Like if you waited in line at 10 o'clock at night to come buy Taylor Swift at 8 o'clock in the morning, I mean, what's your time worth? Yeah, the record's worth $200. You can sell it, time fees and whatnot. Okay, maybe you net 170, cost 15, so you make $155 profit. Okay, well, you know, nowadays you could go just get a minimum-ish paying job and make that same amount of money at work. Sitting in line, and you know, there's not a ton of titles that go for that kind of profit margin. So flipping is not in a sense where you just show up, you don't care anything about records, and you just buy things. It's not as prevalent as you would think. And you look at my live stream. I know almost every single one of those customers that lined up at the store. And I don't know them because they just happen to line up at the shop every April and I've remembered their names. It's because they're regular customers of mine and they buy over and over and over from me, and I see them every single week. Like me, they're degenerates and I got to have their vinyl. That's how I know their name. And yeah, if one of them pops a Taylor Swift on top because he's going to trade it for, you know, something he missed, like a Doors box set, it is what it is. So it's not going away. You can't stop it, right? It's part of the capitalist system. It is what it is, but it's not as prevalent as I think you would think. But yeah, that's pretty much Record Store Day in a nutshell. That is how it works. You buy it as a store, you take all the risk. You may, like me, end up with 25 copies of a Rocky Erickson tribute album because you made poor choices. Or, you never know, you might end up with 25 copies of a Rocky Erickson tribute album and it might sell like gangbusters and be $200 on eBay the next day. It is extremely difficult to predict what is and what isn't going to be, you know, the next big Taylor Swift. Certain things are easy, like a Taylor Swift, right? But a lot of the other squirrely stuff that tends to be expensive, it is extremely risky as a store. And that's why so many stores do not order huge amount of quantities. And that's why when you go in and you waited in line all morning, you went to the store that really didn't have very much quantity. I mean, that is part of how it is. Gauge the store you're going to, make some telephone calls, go in. A lot of the people, the smarter buyers, they come into my store the day before. I get, and it's beneficial to me because a lot of times they find something they want, so they come in on Friday, they buy something, and then they come in on Saturday and buy some more. But they come in and they chat me up. Hey, Mike, this is what I'm looking for. A lot of guys were like, hey, Mike, I'm looking for Art Pepper. Do I got to get here at night? I want Bill Evans, Art Pepper, and Pepper Adams. I'm like, look, if you get here anytime during the day, I'm going to have these titles. So, you know, go in the store the day before. Gauge the interest. Go gauge the market of your store. Some people came in, and the one guy came in the day before, and he's like, hey, if I want to get that Taylor Swift, you know, what time do I have to get here? I said, well, and this was like maybe at 6 o'clock. I'm like, well, you probably should get a chair and get out there now. You know, so you can really get a good idea, depending on the store, if the owner knows his customer base and his store and how it works, like myself, you'll get a real good gauge on what you have to do. So yeah, that's it. I figured I'm going to be doing a live stream on this coming up in the future. I wanted to kind of lay the foundation for that with this video. All right, subscribe to the channel, guys. Until next time.